So we're going to be in Proverbs. This week, the focus of attention I want to give you as parents is this. Your goal is to help them now take everything you've been imparting to them and internalize it, making it their own. So we've been establishing 0 to 5 authority and obedience to authority without explanation, without question, without excuse, without challenge, quickly, happily, completely. All that stuff is being established early on. Then we're building on that foundation to instill character and cultivate the roots of character through correction, rebuke, instruction, and example. And now we want to begin helping that child take what we've been imparting and teaching all along and begin to internalize it and make it their own, which means one of the main tools you will use during this time is choices, decisions, and consequences. Choices and consequences. You need to have space in your mind and in your comfort level to allow your children to begin making choices at this phase of their life. If you react and ratchet down because either you failed to establish this stuff in the past and now they're out of control, or because you're afraid of what's going to happen to them and you don't let them make decisions, you are not preparing them to leave. Because the goal of your parenting is to prepare them to leave, not prepare them to stay. Okay? Can I get an amen? Amen. Oh yeah. Trust me, teens, most of your parents don't want you to stay. They just don't know it. So we need to prepare them to leave, and to leave well, which means there will be a day coming when your child, when your precious, innocent, naive little 13-year-old will not have you there to make decisions for them. So if you're not preparing them for that moment, you're not serving them well, and you're failing as your job as a parent. Now, here's the deal. When they leave your home, what will govern choices they make and decisions they make is the values they have in their heart. The external pressure of the fear of your punishment or your disapproval is gone, and what's governing and guiding them now is what they value. Therefore, it is all heart work now. It is all heart work, and you need to be willing as a parent to let them experience making choices that you know are wrong, dumb, foolish, and naive, and let them experience the consequences of those within the safety of your authority. I'm not saying go hog wild. I'm not saying cut loose and step back and let them be idiots. No, you exercise authority for the sake of their protection, but within that realm of authority, you begin giving them the opportunities to exercise freedom, choices, and then let them feel the consequences of those choices. If you don't allow them to have those test cases happen in your home, those test cases will happen outside of your home, which is much more dangerous. So this is a wonderful age of opportunity to allow them to start exploring their individuality and for you to start learning to trust what Jesus is doing in them. Their reasoning skills are growing. Developmentally, they're growing. They're beginning to articulate what they believe, or they're wondering, questioning what they believe. And all that is good. Don't fear questions. Don't fear their doubts. Don't fear them pushing back. That's all good and right and part of them growing up in preparing for them to leave. Now, what will be key during this time is your relationship with them. And for those of you who were here last week, I shared with you that once we hit the 7 and 12, I was in over my head. I was past the line in the pool where I could stand on my tiptoes and still keep my nose above the water. And I don't have any kids in this age group. So everything I know about teens, I could fit on a Post-it note. Okay? Other than having been a youth pastor, and I doubt being a youth pastor is a very good prep for being a parent. Because you're just corralling cats, right? And hopefully parenting with teenagers is much more intentional than that. So what I did is I've been studying and reading Proverbs and reading some helpful books, but then I sat down with 3 sets of parents who all have good fruit on their tree, and I just asked them questions. And it's a glorious exercise. I implore every parent in this room to look around and find the farmers in the church that have good fruit out in their field and sit them down and go, how did you fertilize? When did you water? How did you plant? What did you do to get what you have? It's a gloriously wonderful means of grace. And I felt my heart just welling with thanksgiving this week to draw from the wisdom of these parents, both the mistakes they've made and the grace they've experienced because of that's how our Father is. And so I would just implore you to do that. So this morning, again, will be an exercise in wisdom as we obey Proverbs 13:20. He who walks with the wise becomes wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. So we're going to walk in the wisdom of the Word this morning and make application by walking with the wisdom of the parents that I've sought counsel with this week. And hopefully those coming together will provide a helpfulness for you. But one observation before we dive in that I made of all these parents is all these parents were aggressively intentional about being in relationship with their children at this age. Now, it seems common and simple and a duh, but I don't want us to miss it. Because a lot of parents, either because they're busy, disengage, or because they're threatened, disengage from meaningful relationship with kids at this age. And I observed all the parents I talked with this week were parents who had made the hard investments early so they had capital to draw from later. And I want you young parents to get this. Do not miss this. I was at Children's Hospital a few months ago, and I was at the pharmacy getting medicine for LMA, and Sharon was at a different part of the hospital getting appointments with Gideon. And I was waiting for the medication, and I observed a son, I'd say 8 or 10, next to his father. And the son was playing with a kendama. And the father was playing with his phone. I thought, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree here. And he's playing on his phone. And his son was, doing this, trying to get it to work. And all of a sudden, he got the ball. And he was like, Dad, I got it. You know what his dad said? Dad, look, you know that trick I've been trying to do this whole time? Like, I finally did it. Now, the kid wasn't being obnoxious. He wasn't being annoying. He wasn't being inappropriately loud. He was being excited about something he discovered and wanted to tell his dad because he wanted his dad to be proud of him. And his dad completely ignored him. And I wanted to run over and go, just hit a freeze frame on the situation and go, Dad, wake up. You are giving up the right to speak into his life when he's going to need you in 6 or 7 or 8 years. He won't even bother asking in a few years if you keep ignoring him. It broke my heart. The thing I realized was, at 8 right now, his son wants his dad's attention. And his son wants his dad's input. It won't always be that way. And parents, I'm telling you, young parents and young kids, if you view your kids as interruptions to you making the dinner or paying the bills or cleaning the garage or finishing the project or whatever you're doing that's really important, you will communicate to them. Mom's busy, Dad's busy, what I have to say isn't super important, and they're not that big on relationship with me, so I need to go somewhere else. And they can't do that when they're 6 because they're stuck in your home, but they can when they're 17, and they will. I'll never forget, Greg Harris told me, he said, Josh, when your son is 6 and you go to the hardware store for a quick run to the store and he wants to go and you think it's a pain, don't miss the opportunity God's given you. Because when he's 6, he wants to go to the store with you. And you're going to be tempted to say, hey, buddy, I wish I could. You know what? Next time, Dad's got to go quick. He's going to run to the store, get something, come right back. But when I come back, they won't hang out, okay? Oh, Dad, can I go? No, Dad, I'm just going to go real quick. Hey, you stay here and play with your sisters. I'll be right back. Because it'll inconvenience me to bring him along with me. Greg said, Josh, you fast forward 10 years, and when he's 16, you won't be able to buy his way to the store. Hey, son, want to go to the store with me? No, thanks, Dad. I'll buy you some ice cream. Nah, it's okay. I'm busy. Thanks, Dad. If you come with me, we can knock stuff off the shelves and run out the back door. Nah, that's okay, Dad. And you'll have missed it because you'll have lost him. So parents, don't miss building relational capital early that you can draw from when they're old. Not because you have the right and you can threaten them, hey, I gutted it out when you were 5 and you're going to gut it out with me now when you're 15. Not at all. They'll want to be there because the pattern and habit of their life has been when I have something important to talk about, I go to Dad. When I have something exciting to share, I go to Mom. When I have something that I'm stuck on or embarrassed by, I go talk to Dad. Establish that pattern early, and you will reap beautiful benefits of it when they get old. So, that's my little opening. Okay, dive in. 7 things you need to be working on as parents of teens. This is what I've done. The book of Proverbs, chapter 1 through 8, is an exercise of a father speaking to a son. And you'll see over and over again, dear son, my son, oh son. This is a father imparting wisdom to a son. And this is what I found so fascinating. As I read these 8 chapters 7, 8 times this week, themes begin to arise, and I begin to realize, okay, there's some repeated things here that this father apparently thinks are important to communicate to his youthful son, And as I began looking at those themes and pointing them out, it was shocking to see how irrelevant it was to our condition today. Written when a father would have said, hey son, go feed the camel because we're going on a trip tomorrow. And the relevancy of it today, to dads who might say, hey son, go fill up the van, we're going on a trip tomorrow. Separated by thousands of years, generations after generations of cultures, times, languages, and it is still speaking right to the heart of what a parent needs to be focusing on with the heart of his teens, because truth is unchanging in ever-changing tides of cultural ups and downs. So we have great, I think the self-authenticating nature of the truth of what our teens need from the book of Proverbs. If you have any doubts in your mind that the Word of God is true, this should be helpful this morning. So I'm going to give you 7 points of focus for parents with Proverbs. This is absolutely as practical and nitty-gritty as I can get, as I've promised, from Proverbs and from the counsel of these parents. Ready? Here we go. Number 1. Point of focus number 1 for parents with teens from Proverbs, the value of work. The value of work. Proverbs 6. Look at Proverbs 6. We'll start at verse 6. We want to teach them the value of work because the problem is teens are born prone towards laziness and procrastination. Am I ringing any bells here yet? Teens are born prone towards laziness and procrastination. Therefore, one of your jobs as a father, as a mother, is to cultivate in them a value of work. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 6. We're going to start at verse 6, but look at verse 1. How does it start off? My what? My son. This is a father talking to a son. Look at verse 3. Then do this, O my son. Okay, now verse 6. O son, go to the ant, O sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise, without having any chief officer or ruler. It's like saying without having a boss or employer. She prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you rise from your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. A worthless person, a wicked man, goes about with crooked speech, winks with his eyes, signals with his feet, points with his fingers. With perverted heart devises evil, continually sowing discord. Therefore, calamity will come upon him suddenly. In a moment, he will be broken beyond healing. A couple interesting things to note there. First of all, the father is recognizing the tendency in his son to be lazy and to procrastinate, and he's telling him, if that happens, there will be consequences. So look to the ant. He doesn't need anybody telling him, hey, work to prepare food. He self-initiates. He, of his own accord, gets up and works and labors to prepare food so that when the winter comes, he's got something to eat. Parents, you do not help your teens if you create a world where they can stay up late, sleep in late, not work, not labor, not contribute, do nothing, and get to eat. You're not helping them. You're lying about how the real world works. You're saying, you're teaching them that they can stay up late playing video games, they can sleep until noon because they're growing, they can throw their laundry on the floor so their servant, i.e. mom, picks it up and they can sit down and they can eat as if food falls into the refrigerator via magic food fairies in the night. You're lying to them about how the world works. And then the psalmist, he makes a transition from lazy people to evil people because, as one father said to me this week, take it to the bank. Idleness will prove seedbed for evil. I don't care how good a kid they are. And I believed him when he said it. His eyes were on fire. The kid who comes home to an empty house and has nothing to do but play video games, woe and shame on that parent who has not had the foresight to think ahead and allows that kid to literally waste their life on meaningless trivialities. It's your job, parent, to build into the fiber of the being of your child a value for work and to connect the dots between work, labor, and harvest, because most people don't get that in our country today. They do not. My aunt was executive vice president at a large bank in Bellevue, and it got bought out, and she was chosen to broker the negotiations of how the merger took place, and she was kind of last exec out the door, and she started a consultation firm for businesses in Seattle and Bellevue, and she says the one thing that she hears repeatedly over and over and over again from business execs in the real world in Seattle and Bellevue is not that, oh, woe is me, we're going down the drain in our economy, which is maybe true, but their biggest challenge, you know what it is? Get people to show up on time and work. They said, we got these kids coming out of college, they walk in the door with a list of demands. It's hysterical. They haven't taken the risk of starting the business. They haven't leveraged funds in their life savings to start this thing. They haven't stayed up late every night for 5 years and shown up every weekend to make this thing go. No risk, no investment, no giving of themselves, no sacrifice, no nothing. They show up with a list of demands. They want 4 weeks vacation. They want a bonus at the end of the year. They want stock options. Boom, 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 boom. Because they showed up for work on time for a week, they think they should be a board member. They're like, it's the craziest phenomena. You know where those kids are coming from? Our homes. Where we taught them to think they can stay up late, get up early, or get up late, not work, not contribute, not do anything, and food just magically appears by the food fairy on the table. That's not helping our kids. It's not helping our country. Listen how Crawford Loritz tells this story. Crawford Loritz is this big black preacher down in the South. Godly man. Dad and I have heard him preach several times. Wonderful, wonderful man. He tells this story. When I was 12 years old, I experienced a defining moment. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't some uncommon, extraordinary experience. It wasn't a brush with death. I hadn't contracted some debilitating disease. Neither had I been traumatized by some predator. It was what my father did and what my mother stopped doing that marked me deeply for the rest of my life. That's really key. It's what my father did and what my mother stopped doing. Some of the action points for you mothers this week as you leave with your teens is to stop doing some of the things you're doing. It marked me deeply for the rest of my life, and it happened all in less than 5 minutes. It all had to do with painting. The family who rented a property my parents owned moved out, and there was some fixing up and paintings that needed to be done before the new tenants moved in. My father thought this would be a great project for the entire family to tackle. So on a Saturday morning, my dad, my mother, my 2 older sisters, and yours truly reported for duty. Now, Mom and sisters were working on the first floor, and my job was to help Pop paint on the second floor. And therein lied the problem. I did not like to paint. I didn't then, and I don't now. So I had to figure out some way to be free of what I thought was an unnecessary burden on my life. My ace in the hole was my mother. Moms, are you an ace in the hole for your kid to get out of work and responsibility? The ace in the hole was my mother. My mom was always more sympathetic to her precious little boy than Dad was. And I knew that if I pressed the right buttons, she would rescue her one and only son from spending his Saturday doing something he did not want to do. So, under the guise of having to use the bathroom, I went downstairs. Now, teens, take note. You are not the first person on the planet to make weak excuses to cover your trail. If you've thought it, dreamt of it, been tempted by it, your parents have probably been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Your parents are reading your mail all day long, and so is God. So just stop thinking that you're that tricky, because you're not. And it's kind of funny to watch you. Okay, here, back to the story. So under the guise of having to use the bathroom, I snuck downstairs and began to complain to Mom. While I was in the middle of convincing my mother that I needed to take off and play with my friends, Pop showed up. As I write these words at my computer, I am vividly remembering and reliving that moment. He's like in his 60s now. My mother said to my father, Crawford, CW, which was my childhood nickname, is only 12 years old. He don't need to be here with us all day. He needs to be enjoying himself with his friends. That's what he needs, yes. Like a hole in the head. Come on. Then my father said, Sylvia, I got this one. That boy, one day, is going to be somebody's husband and somebody's father. There are going to be people depending on him, Sylvia. He has got to learn how to do what he has to do and not what he wants to do. To my mother's credit, she looked at me, then looked at my father, nodded in agreement, and turned away. Pop then turned to me and he said, you take yourself upstairs and you paint until I tell you to stop. And I did. Even at 12 years old, I knew that something important had just happened. It wasn't that I had just lost a little skirmish, and this time I just wasn't going to get my own way. No, the words, somebody's husband, somebody's father, and he has got to learn how to do what he has to do and not just what he wants to do, kept replaying in my mind as a 12-year-old. Of course, I was not fully aware of the weight of what had happened. In fact, it would be years before I fully appreciated the significance of that Saturday morning. But I did have a sense that what just happened was a game changer. My mother knew that in order for her boy to become a man, the most important man in his life needed to shape him. Pop knew that in order for his son to provide leadership and stability to those who would count on him one day, CW needed to embrace core lessons in manhood, obligation, responsibility, and work ethic. A transition took place that day, and I'm so glad it did. In a very real sense, it was what some would call a rite of passage. My dad knew that in order for me not to become a 50-year-old adolescent, I needed to make some intentional steps toward manhood. I can't tell you how grateful I am to God for the gift of my dad's courage, and that he was not passive when it came to the development of my character. There is so much to learn from that story. I'm telling you, moms, as your teens get older, especially your sons, but even your daughters, the influence of the dad must steadily increase. It has to. Sons and daughters both will not draw safety from a smothering mother. They'll draw a sense of stability and safety from a loving and caring and engaged father. If the father isn't engaged, the mother has no ground to stand on to engage her kids as well. We got to get this. And so, moms, I'm telling you, don't smother your kids. Let them flounder. Let them fail. I'm not saying they got to buy all their food when they're 13, but I was paying for my food when I was 18. I got charged $100 rent to live in my house. And I had to pay for car insurance, for gas, for food. And I'm telling you, it didn't kill me. It prepared me to be a man. Now, there are 1,000 ways you can work this out. College education, food, gas, car insurance. There's 1,000 tools you can use as a parent to help shape in your children work ethics. What doesn't help them is to give them a bank account, fill it full of money, and let them drain it and fill it up when it's drained. That's not helping. That's helping them learn how to use the system and to get things that they have not worked or earned. So don't destroy your children by failing to teach them the connection between laziness and starvation and boredom and evil. Focus number two. The privilege of responsibility. The privilege of responsibility. Galatians 6:7 says, do not be deceived. God will not be mocked. What a man reaps, a man what? Sows. That is a axiom of the universe that many people in our country don't understand and actually want to fight and actively work against. I haven't sown, but I still want to reap. Or I have sown, but I don't want to reap what I sown. Sown. What I sowed. What I planted, whatever. Focus number 3, grammar for your teens. No, I'm kidding. Mom, you couldn't teach me everything. The problem at this point is that teens are prone to think this season of life is a vacation from responsibility, and they often fail to connect choices with consequences. Teens just don't have an ability. They're naive, they're young, they lack life experience. They don't have the ability or capacity to connect long-term consequences with short-term decisions. So they don't have the capacity to think that, those funny pictures you thought you'd post on Facebook will be the reason you don't get a job at the law firm in 10 years. They don't have the capacity to understand that, the grades that you're playing around with right now, that aren't that big a deal to you, might possibly cost you thousands of dollars in lost scholarships later. And we don't help them, mom and dad, if we make up the difference in those scholarships because of choices that they made or things they failed to do early. We're not helping them make the connection between responsibility, choices, and consequences. They're faced with a sexual temptation, and the world and the culture and their friends and every song on the radio and every poster they drive by, a movie they see is telling them, dive in, the water is fine. And they give in with no thought or ability to connect that what they just gave away, they can't get back and will not have to give when they get married. And will wreak devastating consequences in their physical relationship with their spouse for the rest of their life outside of a massive work of grace. Yes, God can restore. Yes, God can bring healing. Yes, God can make things new. Yes, amen. That's the amazing story of the gospel. But there will be long-term ramifications for decisions they make with their body, with friends, with money, that we have been put in their life as parents to help them connect the dots to. If we don't, we're failing them in our role. So we have to cultivate a harvest mentality. What you sow, you will reap, and what you're reaping came from what you sowed, and you sow what you value. So you make decisions and make choices. Those have consequences that we're here to help you experience, both good and bad, and realize, son, daughter, the choices you make came from somewhere, and they were birthed from what you value. So it's all heart work here, parents. You're wanting to take responsibility, choices, consequences, and help them see and tie back to all that's coming from what they value. That you're helping them prepare to be launched. Now, there's issues of trust on the table here. There's issues of discipline. Parents often ask, how do I discipline? Well, I think it's appropriate and right to bring about discipline on your teenage children with the withholding of privileges. It's not an entitlement to drive the car. It's not an entitlement to hang out with friends. It's not an entitlement to go to the movies. It's not an entitlement for your wallet to come out with a $20 bill every time they ask for it. None of those are entitlements. Those are privileges that they get to experience as they earn your trust and respect by demonstrating that they are trustworthy young men and women. So we're giving them opportunity to make decisions and fail and then bring in wisdom and teach life lessons and get up and move and try again. I'll never forget Dad always pushed us for responsibility. Because, and we're going to get to this next week, so I don't want to touch on this too much, but there is a profoundly low expectations on you in our culture as a teen that I think are gross. And sadly, most teens are lowering themselves to meet them. In the vast majority of human history, when you're 13, 14, 15, you got a wife, you got a husband, you got kids, you got some goats, and you're on your own in the desert with your tent. Okay? That's how the world's grown up. I was talking to Gary Polson this morning. His kids were 11 years old when they were driving 10 billion pound combines all over the farm. Combines that could run over your car and spit it out in little pieces out the back. His 11-year-olds are driving. Most of us in the room wouldn't trust our 15-year-old with a video game by themselves. We got to pick up the pace, parents, in expectations we have for responsibilities our kids can bear. Because take what you think your kids can handle, I bet they can handle 10 times more whenever that bar is set right now. But that will be based on their character. Their character will set the pace for the responsibility you can entrust them with. So Dad was always pushing for responsibility, always pushing us to grow up, and so he's using tools that motivate us, weapons, vehicles, killing things, hunting things that motivate boys. I don't know what motivates girls. I wasn't one, but I got to figure it out because I got teens coming. So he's looking for things to motivate his kids. Son, you want to shoot a weapon that'll kill something? Yeah. Is the sky blue? Okay, let's get on this. So, this is a responsibility. That's a privilege that will be based on how you respond in character and responsibility to what we give you. And if you cultivate trust for us and you'll have these responsibilities. So when I was 12, Dad was teaching us to drive. So I had a 1983 Datsun King Cab pickup, rear-wheel drive, 5-speed stick. Loved it. So that's what I learned to drive on. Power steering? No power steering. It was right here. This was my power steering. Do I need to change something with my mic? It sounds like I'm in a freaking cave right now. Put next to my mouth. How's that? Okay. So I'm driving this Datsun pickup, and Dad's teaching me how to drive the stick, and man, that's weird. I'll keep going. Teaching me to drive a stick, and so he lets me drive the truck from our house up the hill to where the ditch is. He says, Josh, I trust you with my vehicle, and you've earned that trust, and so I'll let you drive it up to the ditch to check on the water. So we would get in the car together, and we'd drive up the stick shift, drive up the hill, and I have to change the gears quickly going up the hill, and navigate it and pull up, not put it in the water and get out, and we'd check the irrigation, work on it, and get back in, and I have to back it up, and I'd navigate it back down the house, and that's what I got to do. I lived to check on the irrigation. I loved it. So one day, Mom and Dad were gone, and being the responsible young 13-year-old that I was, I thought I would check on the irrigation while Dad was gone. Who knows what's happened to it overnight while we slept? Terrorists could have airdropped in and undone the fitting, and the whole thing is destroyed. So Carrie reminded me the details of the story. It gets better. I said, hey, Carrie, want to go check on the ditch with me? He says, sure. I say, hey, why don't you fill up some water balloons and we'll pretend the bridge is an enemy base and we'll bomb it as we go by. I forgot about this part. He's like, yeah, sure, great. All being born out of my heart of responsibility that I was feeling the weight of carrying for this irrigation line. So we get in the truck and we're over the bridge and we hit it. Yeah, Commando, calling more airstrike. And I'm turning around like this, and backing up, reverse and hit it again. Apparently the irrigation was doing fine. I forgot to check on it. So we're going back and forth up and down the road, and I'm coming down the hill, and there's a driveway that takes off like this, and a big ditch or gully, and I think it was Carrie probably said it. Turn in here, turn in here. Well, didn't quite negotiate the turn. We did Superman into the ditch, rear wheel tires up in the air, and I'm like, oh man. We crawl out, the truck is like this, nose in the ditch, hiney up in the sky, and I'm like, Carrie, where's my sword? Honor killing right here. Let's just get it over. Let's let it be clean and quick, because this is going to be ugly. So the beauty of it was, I couldn't have placed it any better for Dad to see when he came around the final corner of our house, and boom, there it was. And so, do you remember this, Dad? More, yeah. The details are vivid. So he came around the corner, and I'm there, and I'm like, I told Carrie not to take the truck out. No, I didn't say that. I said, Dad, I went to check on the irrigation, and Carrie's like, yeah, we were throwing water balloons, too. We were irrigating the weeds on the way up. And so that was an opportunity for Dad to explain to me that the bank of trust I've been making investments in, I just made a massive withdrawal. The account is empty. no more checks to be written. We got to go back out and work to get some stuff back in it again. And it was devastating to me because I didn't want to lose my dad's trust. I wanted it. I esteemed it. And when he told me, he wasn't yelling, he wasn't frothing at the mouth. I'll tell you, when you come to your teens, what do you think you're doing? When I was a kid, I would have never done that. Really? Come on, parents. Don't reach back to the self-righteousness of your youth as a platform to stand and beat your kids up. That's dumb. One, it's hypocrisy. And two, it's not opening their heart to love you and listen to you. It's just teaching them, when dad shows up, I better hit the bunker and load up because it's war. So I expected all hell break loose, and dad was calm and he was gentle. And he said, I think what hurts the most is that I had trusted you with this responsibility, and you proved to me that you could not handle that trust. It was devastating to me. I wrote an 8-page letter on little note cards that I read this week. My dad pulled out, still got. Dad, I will never, ever break your trust again. Would you forgive me? What can I do to earn it back? And it's not a manipulative thing. It's a desire that I have to be trusted by my parents. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Cultivate the privilege of responsibility in the lives of your children, and you will do them well. Number 3, worth of wisdom. Number 3, focus point of a parent with a teen, worth of wisdom. Proverbs 4 is what we'll read. The problem this proverb is addressing is that teens don't tend to hunger for wisdom and correction. Proverbs 4, 1 through 12. Hear, O son, of father's instruction, and be attentive that you may gain insight, for I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. When I was a son with my father, tender, the only one in the sight of my mother, he taught me and said to me, Let your heart hold fast my words. Keep my commandments and live. You hear what the Father's doing? He's saying, I used to be your age. I get what you get. I used to think how you think. I've felt how you felt. I've been there. I know that. And my Father came along and gave these words of wisdom to me, and they have borne out to be true over time, and now I'm giving them to you. So listen, my son. What does he say? Verse 5, get wisdom. Are you telling your kids to get wisdom? Are you imploring them and appealing to them to get wisdom at all costs? Education, yeah, whatever. Friends, whatever. But whatever you do, son, daughter, get wisdom. Verse 5, get insight. Do not forget and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her. That's the personification of wisdom. Do not forsake wisdom, and she will keep you. Love wisdom, and she will guard you. You want to be kept? You want to be guarded, son? Daughter? Find wisdom, get wisdom, pursue wisdom, capture wisdom, live under the blessing of wisdom. Verse 7, the beginning of wisdom is this: get a 4-year degree. Oh, the beginning of wisdom is this: take all the AP classes you can. Oh, the beginning of wisdom is this: hang out with cool people. What's the beginning of wisdom? Get it. Long for it. Desire it. Pursue it. And whatever you get insight. Prize her highly, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. She will place on your head a graceful garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. Hear, my son, and accept my words, that the years of your life may be many. I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in the path of uprightness. When you walk, your step will not be hampered, and if you run, you will not stumble. Hear the Father's heart for his kid. I want you to experience freedom and joy and happiness and success. And if you focus on getting anything other than wisdom, you will not experience it. You'll run and you'll trip. You'll walk and you'll stumble. You'll fall. You will live in a continual state of pain. Are you, as a parent, working and leveraging every angle God's given you the means to work to cause in the heart of your son or daughter a desire to rise up within them to pursue wisdom? Because it won't come naturally. At least the writer of the Proverbs doesn't think it will. This is here for a reason, because teens don't naturally tend to gravitate toward pursuing wisdom and correction. I bet there's not a parent in the room who would say, yeah, my 15-year-old came home one day and said, hey, you know what, Mom? I was considering my ways. I was considering the way of the wise person and the ways of the evil person, and a stunning thought hit me. When you open your mouth, pearls of wisdom flow from it. Therefore, I've chosen to do my homework early. I got done at school. Canceled my plans with my friends. I have my pad and my pen, and I'm here to take notes sitting at your feet, oh great master. If there's a parent in the room who's had that happen, send the kid back. They're an alien. They're not human. It's not born into the natural heart of a child to pursue that, and yet that's what they need. That's why you're there. Therefore, you have to sell your teenager wisdom and correction even when they're not in the market to buy it, which means you need wisdom to know how to make it beautiful and attractive to them. There is no wisdom imparted when you barge in the room, bark your frustrations and your irritations and how if you were a kid, you never did this, and what have I done to deserve this, and all I ever want is 5 minutes of peace. You go down that road, there's no wisdom being imparted, and their heart is not opening to you. And here's the rub for most of us. Most of these moments won't come on your schedule. I heard it from all the parents I talked with this week. They said, here's the deal. You can't plan moments of wisdom impartation in your kid's life. You can't. You should plan regular times to get together, to talk, to be in their life, to establish a relationship and cultivate it. Yes, yes, yes. But when the moment comes, whether you're paying bills, cooking food, doing laundry, leaving to go with your buddies, or whatever it is, or trying to go to bed because it's midnight, if the window comes, as one dad said to me, you step through it. See, one dad said, my son, what was a late nighter? He liked to play his guitar, and so I just go up at 10 o'clock and listen to him play for a half hour. I'm exhausted. I was up at 5. I'm tired. After playing for an hour, he just opened up and started talking. So I was there. And we'd be there till 11:30 midnight, and his heart was open. Because that's when it was going to be open. So that's when I was there. Parents, be willing to be inconvenienced for the sake of bringing wisdom and correction to your children that make it appear beautiful. I have a letter here from my dad that he kept, that I got from him last week, written in May of 1996. I first encountered this 4-page tome on the mirror of my bathroom. And this is what it said. Dear Josh, to be late in meeting with your mother and give no reason with apology is dishonoring to her and me. Josh, to drive the van in a manner that causes your mother to feel unsafe She's still here in one piece. Is dishonoring to her and to me. To give your mother an air or attitude, I'm going to eat whenever I want to eat, is dishonoring to her. All this is underlined. To talk to the umpires in a disrespectful manner is dishonoring of me and not the way I taught you to act or expect from you. To have an attitude, underlined, of I'll be independent when I want to be and do what I want to do, when I want to do it, the way I want to do it, is a poor model around your younger brother and Eric. It's Eric Chase, one of the deacons that helped plant the church. To have Jack Larkin say to Candy, I'm standing behind the stands, so I won't say to Josh what I probably should say, and that is, how he's acting is not helping our team right now. Josh, your attitude of disrespect was not honoring to Christ. Page 2. Josh, these attitudes, underline, are your choice, underline. The attitudes, underline. You choose, underline. Represent Christ, double underline. Or yourself, double underline. The real test of attitudes is not to ask... The real test of attitudes is to ask the people you serve. I did not talk with Carrie. See, the whole posture is, son, you're serving others all the time, right? So let's see how you're doing with them. If I were to ask Carrie or Eric or Jack, what would they say? I haven't talked with them yet, but your mother's testimony is enough, and it was not good. Thanks, Mom. Throw me under the bus. Okay. I believe, Josh, I need to talk to you to, underline, hear your side of the story. You need to give a sincere apology to Carrie, Eric, and Jack Larkin, and your mother. I do not feel comfortable with you driving any of the family cars with the attitude you currently have. So, see the connection now between your behavior, your attitude, your character, the position of your heart, choices you're making, and now consequences. So, connecting the two. This isn't arbitrary, random, thunderbolt from the sky because I'm embarrassed as your dad. This is helping me see that when I demonstrate this kind of character here, I'm not safe to be given this responsibility here. And did you hear through the whole letter? What's he reaching back to and grabbing the whole letter? The foundation that he laid when I was 4. You dishonored your mother. You disrespected our authority. You disobeyed. See, the foundation he laid when they were 5, he's reaching on now to build on when he engages me at 16. See how that works? But rather than coming in and spanking, now it's appeal with questions to help me think through it, my heart. So his questions are starting conversations that were previously not happening in my head and my heart. That he's engaging now. He's lighting a fire to the thinking process in my head and heart to examine the fruit of my life. I believe, Josh, I need to talk to hear your side of the story. You need to give a sincere apology to Eric and Carrie and Jack. I do not feel comfortable with you driving any of the family cars with the attitude you currently have. I do not feel comfortable with you meeting with other people, including Sarah. Now, Sarah was a friend who was a girl, not a girlfriend, a friend who was a girl in high school. But Dad helped me see that your irresponsibility over here does not give me reason to think you're safe to put you around her over here. What makes me think you'll defend her honor, her integrity, protect her emotions, and act as an upright man over here? When that's not happening over here. There is no dichotomy or difference or category between these two people. You're one and the same. So he's protecting her honor by helping engage me in my heart and get that right first before he lets me be around her. Are you thinking like that, parents? I do not feel comfortable with you meeting with people, including Sarah today, with the kind of attitude you have chosen. Josh, as you know, I was in a 19-hour day yesterday. Today, my day is packed as well. I know you, and I need to talk with you, and I want and I need to listen to you. I'm supposed to go to Seattle tonight, but I may cancel my trip until you and I are able to talk. Are you willing to be inconvenienced? See, if something happens in your home, Dad, it should be time stops until this is dealt with. Period. Nothing else matters now except getting to the heart of my son or daughter and bringing about resolve. That's why none of the parents I talk to ground their kids. Grounding is an exercise in helping your kids cope with punitive outlashes. And worse, it breaches the gap of relationship and keeps it open indefinitely. That's not the point of correction and discipline. You want to get in, deal with the issue, close it, bring healing, restoration, forgiveness, and move on. My schedule today, Josh, and he goes through his schedule, is packed from 6 to 7:30. Bottom line, Josh, double underline, double underline, double underline. Why are you acting this way? Why are you choosing an attitude less than honorable? What did it accomplish when you did it? Here are the questions. I need to understand you, and I need to hold you accountable as your dad. You need to understand, 1, your attitudes and actions are not those of integrity to what you're committed to. 2, your attitudes and actions are below the standard of character I ask of you to live by in our home. Josh, until we talk, I am imposing 3 stipulations. 1, you may not plan to see or talk to any of your friends. 2, you may not drive any of our family vehicles. Whose vehicles are they? They're not mine. They're the family's. 3, you may take the bus to get your hair cut only. Now, Mom read this letter to me on the phone last week. She's laughing her head off. She thinks this is funny. I was weeping. I don't remember this conversation, but my dad had it. I don't remember the meetings he had to cancel to make this happen. I can't even remember. We can't remember the details of the story. But my dad loved me enough to father me that way. The amazing thing, I'll finish the letter. You need to think this through, Josh. While thinking this through, here's some projects you can do around the house. Get the irrigation going above the house. Mow the lawn, which was a huge lawn. Clean the dog kennel. Feed the dog. Tighten the chains on the motorbikes. After we talk, I will reconsider the above 3 stipulations. Are you making correction and wisdom beautiful? Here's the deal. We talked about this on the phone 2 weeks ago. We still, to this day, can't remember what this was about. We can't. We can't remember what I did. You know why? Because when it's dealt with right, it goes away. It just goes away. It's like Jesus saying, as far as the east is from the west, I will remember your sins no more. The slate is clean. We are good. Relationship intact. No lording it over you. And we're moving forward. And if you don't bring it up, I won't. That's beautiful. I'm not covered in discipline scars in my body. My body is whole and healthy because they healed quickly and completely. That's the beauty of wisdom, the beauty of godly correction. So make wisdom appealing, parents. Make correction appealing so that your kids want to engage in the process, even if it hurts. You should want to live your life in such a way and ask God for the wisdom of when you engage your son or daughter and you turn to leave and go out the door and you walk down the hallway, they say, I might not always agree with what they say, but I know they love me. We got to be able to learn how to say the hard things to our kids in such a way that draws out of their heart deep, profound knowledge that they are actively being loved and they're safe and they can submit and obey as an act of faith. These will be precious times. These will be precious times. Don't avoid them. Don't run from them. These are precious times with you and your kids that God's giving you as a gift to love them and to shepherd their heart. Focus point number 4. Focus point number 4. We've got to pick up the pace here. Focus point for our parent teens, as brought about by the book of Proverbs, number 4, is the gift of sexuality. The gift of sexuality. Look at chapter 5, verse 1. The problem that the Proverbs is addressing is that teens are particularly susceptible to sexual temptation, and in our day, the sexual temptation is constant. This was a need that the father saw was needed to instruct his son in. Do we need this kind of instruction today with our kids, parents? The Bible's so irrelevant, isn't it? It's so outdated. Wow. Verse 1 of chapter 5. My son, be attentive to my wisdom, incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep discretion, and your lips may guard knowledge. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil, but in the end she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps follow the path to Sheol. She does not ponder the path of life. Her ways wander, and she does not know it. And now, O sons, listen to me, and do not depart from the words of my mouth. Keep your way far from her, and do not go near the door of her house, lest you give your honor to others and your years to the merciless, lest strangers take their fill of your strength and your labors go to the house of a foreigner. And at the end of your life you groan when your flesh and body are consumed, and you say, oh, how I hated my father's discipline, and how my heart despises reproof. I did not listen to the voice of my teachers or incline my ears to instructors. Now I am at the brink of utter ruin in the assembled congregation. And General Proteus says, amen. Because it's true. You can be the head of the CIA, and your sin will find you out. There are devastating consequences to sexual sin. Devastating consequences. And so you read the Proverbs here, and is the Proverbs saying, run from sex, it's bad, it's horrible, avoid it at all costs. Is this prude text number 1? Let's keep reading. Son, verse 15, drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. This is metaphor for partake in sexuality that is in its proper order. Verse 16, should your springs be scattered abroad, streams of water in the streets? Let them be for yourself alone, and not for strangers with you. Let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, and a lovely deer, a graceful doe. Let her breast fill you at all times with delight. be intoxicated, always in her love. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman, and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? For a man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders all of his paths. The iniquities of the wicked ensnare him, and he is held fast in the cords of his sin. He dies for lack of discipline, and because of his great folly, he is led astray. Chapter 6, verse 20. My son, keep your father's commandments and forsake not your father's teaching. Verse 21, bind them on your hearts always, tie them around your neck. When you walk, they will lead you. When you lie down, they will watch over you. When you awake, they will talk with you. For the commandment is a lamp and the teaching is a light, and the reproofs of discipline are the ways of life, to preserve you from the evil woman, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress. Crazy. Sexual temptation was an issue 6,000 years ago with teenagers. Go figure. Then what does he say? Do not desire her beauty in your heart, and do not let her capture you with her eyelashes. For the price of a prostitute is only a loaf of bread, but a married woman hunts down a precious life. Oh. We watched that play out in national news this week, didn't we? And on and on and on it goes. Look at verse 32. He who commits adultery lacks sense. He who does it destroys himself. And on and on and on it goes. Listen, parents, we live in an absolutely sex-crazed, upside-down culture. You can't go anywhere. You can't turn on the radio. You can't flip through a magazine. You can't look through the ads in a newspaper. You can't buy a gallon of milk without being assaulted with images, sexually explicit images and message and innuendos. We are a sex-crazed culture. There is no way to protect your children from it because they're in it and it's in their heart too. You're like, wow, should we talk about this in church? Yes, we should, because sex is our thing. Our God made it. Our God created it. Our God designed it, and it's good. And woe to the church if the culture is screaming about it and we sit back embarrassed and silent. The culture either makes sex a god to be worshipped as an idol that destroys people's life, or it makes sex to be gross because of the shame surrounded by it, to be rejected. And Jesus comes along through the Word and says, no, sex is a gift to be enjoyed from me to you. Don't despise it, don't spurn it, receive it as a gift, and use it in its proper way. We have to start these conversations with our kids early, or we'll be behind the eight ball before we... The average age, an 8-year-old of internet exposure to pornography is 8 years old. A large percentage of 11-year-olds are regularly viewing pornography on the internet, and the largest consumer of internet porn is 12 to 17-year-old boys. And some of you have sons in your home that are addicted to it, and you don't even know it. You gave them a phone. And then you just walked away, thinking they'd have the character to fight off the temptation that's going to be bombarding them the second they turn that thing on. We got to think, parents. We got to think ahead. We got to get ahead of the game, because sex is a good thing, and God designed your children for it. We can't be ignorant on this issue. We got to be in the game with it. So we're talking about pornography, masturbation. We're talking about relationships with friends of the opposite sex. We're teaching our sons that girls are emotionally oriented, and the things that we think are innocent will defraud them because they think there's more there than there is. And so we need to protect their emotions by how we treat them. Daughters, modesty is an issue because God's created men to be visually stimulated, and they're visually oriented. If you're dressing in such a way that's starting his engine down a road he can't go, that's not loving him as brothers. And some of you say, well, that's sick, that's their deal. No, that's your deal. God's calling you to honor your brother and your sister. Some of you moms can't talk to your daughters about modesty because you still dress like you're still fishing for a guy. This is a big deal. This is big stuff. And I'm not saying prude. I'm not saying, potato sacks from here to the toes. Don't you want to go to that church? No, I'm saying beauty, true beauty. I looked at the stats today, or yesterday. We're taking knives to the chests of our daughters and filling them with plastic to the tune of billions and billions of dollars every year. It's staggering. This isn't a few rich kids that live up in Broadview. This is across the board. Because what matters is how you look and the shape of your body and the color of your hair and the size of your nose. We're completely upside down. I went on a website this week started by some kids at a local high school, and it was fraught with sexual innuendos and comments. Oh, you're a sex goddess. What is a sex goddess? Why would that be a compliment? A sex goddess was an idol in ancient times that they worshipped with acts of sex. It was an idol, and they would bring children and do sex acts with her in front of the idol to appease her. That's a compliment? We have lost our sense. And we got to be in the game. And I'm not talking to you. I had one awkward conversation with a 13-year-old where you're like, hey, son, there's birds and there's bees, and you know how they got there? Yeah, Dad, no, Dad. Okay, good. Okay, we're good. Knuckles, all right. How the Mariners game? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you sit down and you initiate a conversation that is now open game for as long as they're in the house. It's not one-time conversation, walk away. It's ongoing conversation as they grow because a 13-year-old has different questions than a 15-year-old. That has different questions than a 7-year-old. And we got to be in the game in this. My parents were very, very strict. And I didn't get it at first, but they said, here's the deal. Every girl you meet, don't plan on dating her because that's not on the plate of opportunity right now. That developmentally, that's not what you should focus on. And it will distract you and distract her, so you don't need to worry about making that choice or not. That's been made for you. Now, within that, we're going to teach you how to hunt. Yeah. We're going to teach you how to observe and discern and to build relationships that are honoring to God. And when this season and time is right, you will be ready to do God's work. My mom told me a week and a half ago, and I'm not sure if it's appropriate to say this, and if you want to send emails about it, we'll send it to Mom. I said, Mom, what was a big deal for you when we were teenagers? She said this, look me right in the eye. I wanted my boys to have good sex. Awkward. I was like, thanks. She's like, I wanted my sons to experience the joy and the blessing of the gift God's given. And I wanted that for them in the confines and the safety of God's design in marriage. Therefore, I had to work backwards. I had to look at what I wanted, and I had to reverse engineer that to see how I would parent you when you were 13. And by God's grace, she did it. And I walked into my marriage with no image or experience baggage in my mind. And I've said it before. I'll be careful how I say this, but it's good. There's not a high school athlete stud at the high school that's got a tent as good as I got it. I don't care what kind of crap they talk about in the locker room. Because Satan's way is devastating only and always. And God's way is gloriously good only and always. We got to put that in front of our kids. It's not don't. It's, oh, what is so good coming? Let's prepare for that.